Good morning. Our recent assignment was to read page 10 in our Developing Nations book, and it was called Black Sunday, an Eyewitness Account. So now we're going to read it together, and this time we're going to annotate as we read and try to find different parts of the story that we can make meaning out of. So the first thing we're going to do, if you haven't done so already, please pause the video and try to copy the things that we're looking for right there. And you don't have to make them the colors I chose. I just chose these colors. You pick whatever colors you want to annotate with. And if you're back, let's go ahead and start our reading. So I'm going to read the title first and notice what the whole page looks like. It says Black Sunday and it has a colon, an eyewitness account. Okay, I'm going to circle that because that's going to be really important later. And I also noticed that it is 5 paragraphs, and strange because there's a bunch of dots and lots of quotations that I'm noticing right off the bat. I wonder why that is. The next thing I'm going to notice is the genre. Let's write down genre. What is the genre? Let's look all the way in the corner. I'm going to get a different color. First-hand account. What is first-hand account? First-hand account. If you remember, we talked about first-hand account. What that means is it is an eyewitness to something, to an event. So if you see something happen and you go and tell somebody else, that story that you're telling is a first-hand account. But if you see something and you come and tell me, your story is a first-hand account, but if I retell your story, that's not first-hand anymore because I wasn't the one who eyewitnessed it. I wasn't the one who saw it happen. Okay, so as we're reading this, we're going to highlight any characters that we see. We're going to highlight any evidence of the point of view. We're going to highlight the setting and thoughts and feelings that we notice as we're reading. And sometimes I don't catch them all, so if you see something that you might notice, go ahead and highlight it. I wish you were here with me and you can just shout out the answers like we do in class, but we're going to do our best. So let's see. Black Sunday Eyewitness Account. On April 14, 1935, April 14, 1935 is the date of the worst dust storm in our nation's history, now known as Black Sunday. Pauline Winkler Gray, who lived with her husband in Meade County, Kansas, gives this first-person account of what happened that day. Okay, so I already see a setting. I'm going to make my setting purple. So setting is the place and the time. So this was Kansas, Meade County, Kansas. And it was in April 14, 1935. And I do have a character, Pauline Winkler Gray. I'm going to make that a different color. Oh, I see another one. It's called Black Sunday, but I don't know if that's the name of it or if I should make that the setting. I guess if it is a time, Sunday, let me see. I'll just underline it. Now, this next paragraph I noticed looks a little different than from the first one. I think what's happening is the first paragraph is introducing us to the eyewitness account. And from here on, it's just a bunch of, It's just a bunch of quotations, if you notice. There's a reason for that. This is now this person, Pauline Winkler Gray, talking. And then I noticed that the quotations stop in the last paragraph. So that's probably like an introduction, a conclusion, and then the middle is just her talking. Makes sense why there's all those quotations. Let's see. By noon, the radio gave warning that the barometer was falling rapidly. Now, if we see a word we don't know, we're going to circle it. This was almost a sure sign that there would be a dust storm soon. I rushed to the window. On the south, there was blue sky, golden sunlight, and tranquility. On the north, there was a menacing curtain of boiling black dust. It had the appearance of a mammoth waterfall in reverse, color as well as form. As the wall of dust and sand struck our house, the sun was instantly blotted out and completely. Gravel particles clattered against the windows and pounded down the roof. We stood in our living room in pitch blackness. Finally, we groped our way to the wall switch and turned on the light. Okay, so it's 1935 and there is light. I'm not understanding what's happening here. So, are you telling me that a giant wall of dust covered their house? Well, actually, yeah, that's exactly what happened. If you look at some of the other pages, the Dust Bowl was a time in history where a giant blizzard of dust hit the plains of our country, the Southern Plains, in the 1930s and devastated all the crops and houses, and people were left with no jobs and had to immigrate to other places. So that's exactly what happened. A black storm of dust hit the place where this character lives. Now I circled two words. The first one was tranquility and the other one was barometer. Let's use context clues to figure out what that means. By noon, the radio gave warning that the barometer was falling rapidly. Well, I see a word in this word. I wish I had a different color. I'm just going to use a marker. I see the word meter. Barometer. The word meter is in there. So it must be something that measures maybe the weather. So the barometer was falling rapidly, very quickly, and this was a sign that a dust storm was coming. So whatever the barometer means, it is a measuring tool. And then I see the word tranquility. This is actually made up of two words. Tranquility is, and wait, I'm going to put this into parts. Tranquility means peace. So if we read this from top to bottom, on the south, it was blue sky and golden sunlight and peace. And then suddenly, dun, dun, dun. It's the climax of the story. So suddenly, this dust bowl happened. I'm hoping that while I'm reading this, you've already read this to yourself, which was your last assignment, because I hope that we can, by reading it a second time, have a better perspective of what's happening in the story. Let's go to paragraph 4. When we flipped the switch again, we could see only a dark brown mass of soil pressed tightly against the outside of the glass. Sometime before normal sunset time, the sun reappeared, briefly. I wonder why the sun reappeared. Does that mean that there was no sun? Like, where did it go? Was it still in the sky? Well, or maybe the sun was still there. The sun didn't change. It was covered up by all the dust. The wind gradually subsided, but the fine particles of wheatland soil sifted down from the sky. Okay, so we see an end to our quotation. So this was the story that the person was telling from her first-hand perspective, from her eyewitness account. And this is the introduction and conclusion. Pauline Winkler Gray and her husband were more fortunate than many others. Their home wasn't destroyed. That tells me that there are people with destroyed homes. Most important of all, they survived. Wow. So this dust bowl was pretty serious if people did not survive, and we have people whose homes were destroyed. If you get a chance to look through this book, there's some interesting pictures of what happened during the Dust Bowl and some of the devastation that that area took because of the event. Okay, so as we're reading this, we're looking for characters. Some of the characters I noticed was Pauline Winkler Gray. If you noticed another character, go ahead and color it in. Evidence of point of view. Well, in the beginning, somebody's telling us this story. So it was third person in the beginning and the end. So let's see, point of view. Here is third person and third person because the person telling us the story is the narrator. But here, it's first person. So it's kind of jumping point of views. we don't see that happen a lot. Usually the way it starts is the way it finishes, but this one, it starts by a third person's point of view telling us about this person, and then first person, and then back to third person. Third and then first. So my evidence, so let's see. I know it's first person here because the character keeps saying, I rushed, we flipped. Let me see another one. Did you see another one? Finally, we groped our way. But I know that here and here it's third person because it keeps referring to Pauline Winkler. Pauline Winkler and her husband were fortunate, others were not. It's not talking about me, I was fortunate and others were not. Okay, and the last thing we're looking for is thoughts and feelings. And if you remember, boys and girls, we talked about how our stories come alive when we include thoughts and feelings. And when we include how we're thinking and how we're feeling, our story is more interesting to the reader. So I'm going to make any evidence of thoughts and feelings blue. Let's see. There was a menacing curtain of boiling black dust. Oh my goodness, look at that imagery. She could have just said there was dust blowing, but she said there was a menacing curtain. Menacing is like evil looking. A menacing curtain of boiling black dust. That imagery of the dust being a curtain that is boiling at them, that's a really nice way to put things so that the person who's reading it has a picture of what's happening. Let's see. Finally, we groped our way to the wall switch. It makes me think of them clawing at the floor. And then we flipped the switch again and we saw a soil pressed tightly against the glass. I wonder if there's any other thoughts and feelings I can find. It had the appearance of a mammoth waterfall. You know what this author did? Not only did they use thoughts and feelings, there's a lot of imagery in here. There's a lot of pictures that they're creating in our minds. Menacing curtain, mammoth waterfall. Let's see, on the south there was blue sky, golden sunlight, and tranquility. This sets it off in the beginning like everything was perfect, and then suddenly, boom. All right, thank you for participating in our reading today.